It's time now for the Success is Subjective podcast. Here is your host and therapeutic consultant for young adults only, Joanna Lilley.
Hi, and welcome to the show. I know the anxiety that comes with watching a loved one struggle with a nonlinear path. This podcast was created to fight back against the narrow picture of success painted by social media. Each week, we share authentic stories from people who changed course, maybe failed, and ultimately found their own definition of success. These are the stories you need to hear to prove that changing your mind is common and you don't have to have it all figured out at 18. So if you're a parent or you're a young adult looking for a little proof, you're home. Now let's get into today's episode. And if you'd like to explore how I can help your young adult, you can also schedule a free consultation through my website link in the show notes. Today, my guest is Ken Miller. Ken is an entrepreneur focused on building and exploring unconventional paths to success. So you can probably see here why I was really glad to have him on as a guest. His journey has been shaped by trial, error, and a willingness to move without a clear blueprint. He's interested in how people define success for themselves rather than following inherited definitions. Through his work, he aims to create and share ideas that challenge traditional thinking around career and growth. So let's not wait any longer. Here's Ken. All right, Ken, thanks for being a guest on the podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I'm excited to get to know you. So let's go ahead and start by actually you telling me and the listeners, where did you grow up and what was the messaging in which you were hearing, right, from school or family or community about what you're supposed to do after high school?
So I grew up in Anchorage, Alaska. So a little different there. I was born in New York, moved to Anchorage when I was 12, went to high school and junior high in Anchorage, Alaska. And I was precocious as a child. I did very well academically. So I was a National Merit Scholar. I was accepted to Harvard. I chose to go to Dartmouth in New Hampshire, Ivy League. And, I had been given, ideas of my future pretty early on because of probably the academics. And my mother came from an academic background. She had a master's from Columbia Teachers College. So she had an MED. And so my thoughts were, I thought I was going to be a lawyer. So kids, when they're growing up and they're 6 and 7, they play like cowboys and Indians and cops and robbers. I wanted to be a politician. That's what I wanted to be. People look at me weird. So I thought I was going to be the first Black senator from Alaska. Didn't happen.
Well, that's what happens when you move to New Hampshire.
Yeah. It didn't happen.
Okay, so let's talk through this then. I mean, in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, you might be the first guest that I've had that's from talks about at some point in their upbringing that they lived in Alaska. Cause I feel like culturally, maybe there's like a different messaging about what you're supposed to do after high school, but it makes sense to me being a National Merit Scholar, and especially for you spending the first 11 to 12 years of your life in New York and being a child of someone who is at an Ivy school. Like that's, Ken, that's your path, right? Maybe Alaska is not it. So what ended up happening? Talk us through kind of the next chapter of okay, you go to Dartmouth. Where does that lead you?
So when you're at Dartmouth, especially in the direction I was going in. So I belonged to a fraternity. And what we had, I'll never forget, in the fraternity, this is 1984, is the pinnacle was to work for one of the large banks. Manufacturers, Hanover, Morgan Stanley, for a Deutsche Bank, First Boston, things of that nature. So you come out of an Ivy League school and you go into the equity or into banking. And so you would apply and then we'd get these letters and we call them ding letters. And because you've been dinged, they said no. And so we would plaster our walls and our door in the fraternity with the ding letters. And some guys had a lot of them. I didn't even apply to too many, so that wasn't a big problem with me. But I had a sense that I would go into the corporate world to start, then I would go to law school and then go from there. And so I went into the corporate world. I worked for 3M, worked for Kodak, did very well for the first 2 years. unfortunately, when I came out of college, I always tell people I graduated with a degree and I majored in fraternity and I minored in drinking. That's what I did at Dartmouth. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I get out and I go to treatment. That was my graduation present from college. I go to, alcoholism treatment, and I stayed sober for 2 years. Then I thought that I wasn't an alcoholic anymore. I'm 23 and doing very well. And I was. And so I ended up spending pretty much the next 22 years homeless on the streets.
Wow. Okay, that took a turn. I was not expecting that.
Oh, I thought you knew that.
No. Okay. I'm going into this blind, Ken. Tell me all the things. I'm excited to learn, and I'm also excited to have my listeners kind of learn about you. Okay, so homelessness for 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
And I'm the panhandler. I was a very good panhandler, but I was a panhandler. And I lived in abandoned cars, abandoned houses. When I did well, I got a motel room. And then I spent a lot of times in the missions. In between those, I usually was arrested. So I went to jail about 20, 30 times. I'm a 3-time convicted felon. I spent years behind bars as a convicted felon because I went to prison 3 different times. And then finally in 2004, I was arrested for my last felony, and I have been clean and sober ever since. Today, I own multiple businesses. I speak across the country. I write books. I mentor young men all over the country, and I try to assist people and support people and volunteer my time. Been on a lot of boards, a lot of associations, and so that's what I do today. I'm a grandfather, I'm a father, but I'm very successful today. But to do that, I had to do the 22 years homeless or incarcerated.
Yeah. So now that you've just rattled off all of the things that you do now, right? The giving back and how you show up to kind of help other people. So having heard your journey literally from New York to Alaska to Dartmouth to like 3M, like to 2 decades of homelessness and to what you're doing now, 25 years later, essentially. So, well, no, I can't do math, 20 years later. Do you see yourself now as successful?
100%. This is what I say. The term I use, success, is a great one, but I am well. I am well. What does that mean? That means I am competent to life. So in life, there's a thing called vicissitudes. Those are the ups and downs of life. And I expect them. I know they're coming. But when they come, I have the capabilities and the ability to deal with them. And so I am well. I do life well. I treat people with respect. In return, people treat me with respect, with love, kindness, gentleness. That's how I treat people. And so I'm not afraid. And this is a big term that I use because this is the way I lived for many years. I am not in an adversarial relationship with self. There was like 2 parts of me. And one would talk really bad to the other side and do things to myself. I was a self-harmer, we would call. So I would burn myself. I would cut myself, things that way I do, because I was in so much angst and so much emotional pain that I also thought that I would have to punish myself for some of the things that I did on the streets.
I am just like sitting here thinking through all of that, and like even though that happened too, when you like the start of that, you're talking about your end of 20s, 30s, and into your early 40s. I feel like young adults nowadays are really self-deprecating. So a lot of that like self-harm or a lot of the like just self-punishing like you described is pretty rampant for young adults nowadays. So I'm going to go a little off script and kind of ask you a piece of advice. If there is a parent of a young adult that's listening to this, or a young adult themselves, and they feel like this is a part of their loved one's story or their personal story, like I'm in the throes of this, like I'm not worthy kind of, and inflicting self-harm, what advice would you give to that parent or that young adult right now?
First, understand and give it validity. Number two, do the best you can to be well. First, you've got to take that oxygen mask down and make sure you have something literally to offer to be able to understand that individual and come out of love and kindness and accept the validity of this person's pain. Because that's what that person, the individual is in pain. There's a conflict. And usually the conflict is internal. That's the conflict. And what it is a way that they are looking at themselves and looking external. You look internal and external. And most of the time from the external, they are seeing discomfort and pain in my interactions externally. But they're also having difficulty internally being comfortable with their walk and being comfortable with their mere existence. Therefore, they're going to have just a tremendous amount. And the term I use a lot of times is friction.
Yeah.
Friction internally and externally. So anyway, they're in that situation. You're the parent. What can I do? And sometimes you can't solve for it. There's professional help that's needed sometimes, and I don't say this often. There's chemical help that's needed. You know, the dopamine levels are off or whatever it may be. Yeah. And then many times people just need someone for them to listen to. The biggest difficulty, not the biggest, one of the largest difficulties we have today as a young adult is that it's easy to silo and it's easy to be alone because we have digital means to not physically communicate with the external world. And I'm talking physical. It's not the same. Zoom, we're communicating, but this is not like me being in your studio or me sitting down across a table having a cup of coffee. So we lose that externalities with others and that sense of belonging to literally the world. And that is causing, it's so easy to get caught in ourselves, and it creates a cycle. Literally a cycle as we get deeper, deeper, deeper into our negative world.
Yeah. I love that you said that. I mean, again, from the start, it's like as a parent, first and foremost, like you got to put on your own oxygen mask. I think that that's such a stark reminder of like, look, you can't jump into the solution of finding the person for your loved one to talk to or like helping them with, you know, like you're saying, like medications or like if their like levels are off, you know, again, just like seeking help to kind of figure out what it is that they need. If emotionally you are also flooded and don't take an opportunity to just sit and validate the friction that they're experiencing.
So if you're going to offer someone counseling, and I am a firm believer in counseling, it saved me. You need to go to counseling too. It's like going to Al-Anon. Yeah, I'm the alcoholic, but my mom went to Al-Anon. Yeah. Okay. Because you need to understand how this has affected you, because it has affected you. Yeah. And so that goes to that. If you are the individual that's hurting, the young adult, and this is, I don't even want to use the word difficult. It's unusual. One of the biggest difficulties as humans is we lack the capacity, want, need, or desire to self-audit, to truly self-audit. And what I mean by that is to truly look at self and look at behavior, actions, feelings, and thoughts, and how to do that. There are ways that you can teach yourself, but I'd rather have someone else probably teach you how to do it. I do that really, really well. And I have taught it. And it's what I'm just saying is self-examination. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. I mean, we don't know where to begin if we don't really know, if we don't have the opportunity to essentially hold up the mirror and say, what's even going on?
It's broken.
Yeah.
We can't fix. I tell people, that's when I went to college, I was broken. I was broken, emotionally broken. And what happens is we take that brokenness, that pain, that discomfort, And we have a tendency at times to deflect it upon others, self, or act out in ways that have really nothing to do with the individual or the situation, but it comes from that brokenness and that pain. And so I did a lot of behavior that came out of my brokenness because I was broken.
Yeah.
Different reasons.
Well, like you said, 20 plus years of homelessness, like you were in the thick of it.
Yeah.
For a long time. All right. So let me just ask this one kind of, again, just a question from curiosity. I know that sometimes when people go to treatment or they're finally at a point where they're leaning into their recovery or they've experienced, homelessness and they finally are at a turning point where things change, you kind of listed some of the things that you were connected to that kind of helped you move forward with your life. But again, for a parent of a young adult right now or the young adult themselves, is there anything else specifically that you think would be helpful for that type of population who might be in a similar story to what you have that goes against or kind of goes in addition to what we've already talked about up to this point?
Sure. For everyone, there's a perfect answer. It's just that we don't know which one is the perfect answer. So please hear me when I say this. The best thing that ever happened to me is I went to prison for the third time. Let me say that again. I went to prison 4 years for the third time. That was the best thing that happened to me. And in fact, the day I got arrested, I was crying. I was bawling. And they were tears of joy. And the joy was I was going to be locked up because left to my own devices, I was going to die, period. I was going to die. And so I knew I can do prison. I've been there twice before. But what it did, it gave me a break. I didn't have to worry about rent. I didn't have to worry about where I was going to eat. I didn't have to worry about going out there and committing a crime to feed myself or feed my addiction. So this is what I want to say. What we have with counsel is sometimes we have to allow people to feel the pain. But the problem is, it's not even the problem, it's the truth. Some people are going to feel the pain and they're going to die. They're going to OD, they're going to get killed, they're going to commit suicide. Some people are going to feel the pain and they're going to blossom. I am an example. I had to feel the pain of 3 years in the penitentiary for me to get well. If left to my own devices, I would be dead today. I know that is a fact as easily as I say that. So it's difficult as a parent because we have so much love for our children that it's hard for me to put conditions on our interactions with them. But if we keep rescuing them, and I can't tell for yours, but there are people you can counsel with that can help you make that determination. Because what it comes down to in the end is one of the highest levels of maturity, which is called discernment. And that is being able to choose between two seemingly equal alternatives.
Yeah.
And I wish I could tell you to the listener, every time you need to be hard. Every time you need to have tough love. Every time you need to just give them anything that they want. Let them come home again for the nth time. Let them live on the couch for the next 5 years as they do nothing because they don't feel enough discomfort. A buddy of mine says, Ralph W. out of LA, he said, the thing that gets you in the rooms of recovery is a well-whooped butt. He said he uses a different word, starts with an A. But that's what gets you into the rooms. And I agree with him 100. I'm not saying for every single person. Sometimes we're court ordered. Sometimes we're wife ordered or partner ordered. But what gets you in and what allows you many times to make the change, because recovery by nature is painful. Mm-hmm. By nature, because you're doing something that's, if it wasn't, everybody would get recovery. First time they went to treatment, or first time they say, I'm not going to take methamphetamine anymore. I'm not going to shoot meth anymore. Okay, I'm done. If it was that easy, everybody would, because we know that there's repercussions to our active addiction.
Yeah.
But it's not that easy. It's not that easy. And so how do we make it? How do we have enough instigation or have enough feeling that will say, I don't want to feel this anymore. I'll deal with the discomfort.
Yeah.
Just so I never have to feel that feeling of guilt or shame or anger that is connected to my active addiction.
Yeah. I know that there's going to be parents listening to this that are really going to resonate with everything that you just said. Like, oh my gosh, you just filled the room with all of the different things that parents need to be taking into consideration. It wasn't just like one piece of advice. Okay, that said, because I feel like what I'm really trying to do at this point is more of a call to action for anybody that's listening. If you are curious to learn more, to get connected to Ken, I want to make sure that first of all, we're going to have all the links in the show notes so that you can kind of connect. But Ken, how can a parent learn more about what it is that you're doing?
You're probably a very good way to do it. Go to my YouTube channel. I have 160 videos and shorts on there. I mean, I can't even say we scraped the top because it's just, I go in depth. And again, this is my experience, folks. But I know what my results have been. So anyway, you go to my YouTube, which is Ken Miller 84 is one of my channels. And then there's Ken Miller Speaks is another one of my YouTube channels. And then my LinkedIn is Ken Miller 84. And it's 84 is because that's the year I graduated from Dartmouth. And you can always DM me there. Or you can go to my website, kenmillerspeaks.com, and you can direct message me there. And I respond to people. I've been on podcasts and people come up to Seattle to talk to me. And I say, hey, feed me. I'm good. You don't have to. I'm just so honored, to be able to give back.
Yeah.
Oh, so honored.
Well, I think that you hit the nail on the head. This short conversation is the tip of the iceberg, right? In terms of like more information about your story, more about the work that you're doing, more about the like imparting of advice and the like giving of gifts over and over. One
more. If you so desire, this is your call, get my book and give it to your kid. It is definitely a fun read. It's called Becoming Ken. It's one Black man's journey from the Ivy Leagues to the penitentiary or to prison and back again. And there's some very interesting stories in there that I have not shared on this podcast, but there's also answers in there. And people can relate to me. I'm just this Black guy up in Washington State, but I've been there. I've done it. And I'm on the other side, healthy and well.
I'm going to read his book. So anybody that's listening, please go buy it. Connect with Ken. Ken, thank you again for being a guest on the podcast, for sharing your story and just like being willing to continuously talk about the path that you've been on, because it is creating a path for others who are needing reference that their journey is not the end of the road.
Thank you.
That's it for this week's Success is Subjective episode. We want to thank our guests for joining Joanna on the show this week and for being willing to share your journey. This podcast would not exist if it weren't for people such as yourself. Stay tuned for our next episode, where you can bet it'll be another amazing human sharing their personal story with the world. Make sure you check out the show notes, where you will find contact information, website details, and all social media for our guest. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, you can email joanna@lilleyconsulting.com. Be sure to check out the lilleyconsulting.com website for additional resources outside of podcasting. Now, if you're listening to the show on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe. And while you're at it, feel free to leave a review. You can also download to listen to the Success is Subjective podcast on other popular podcast apps, such as Audible, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio. Thanks again for listening in, and remember, there is no single path through life. Success is what you make it.